Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Weighing In, brought to you by the good people at Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike gear. pureandclean.us, get the best mat cleaning gear in the game, and Resolite.com for all your wrestling mats, plyometric boxes, everything like that, wall mats, padding. Joined today, after the CyHawk weekend, by my two native Iowa friends, Mark Ostrander, Grant Turner. Grant, I'm going to turn it over to you. I understand you are Switzerland when it comes to Nike, but you're also an Iowa State alum, and you were the only one of the three of us in the building, although you did offer to get me a ticket. I just decided not to drive through the snow, so thank you for the offer. The floor is yours, sir. How was it?
Well, if everybody didn't know, the Midwest got hit with about 11 inches, or at least Central Iowa got hit with about 11 inches of snow on Saturday. So I feel that the crowd could have been even larger than it was, but getting there, I got there extra early. Basically went to the Grove Cafe, which is like a Ames staple. It's like downtown place. Got there for breakfast early in the day. The line was probably 100 yards out the door, 30 minutes prior to the event, or before the doors opened up. It was a really well-attended event for how bad the snowstorm was. And then once you got inside, when the duel was happening, it was electric. It was contentious. It was cheers. It was, the pep band was playing. There was great representation for both Iowa and Iowa State in the building. And if you haven't ever experienced the CyHawk Dual in your life, get to Iowa City, get to Ames, view that. It's a really great college wrestling environment. For anybody that's a college wrestling fan, it should be on your travel bucket list. Really well done. Production was good. Once again, a lot of TV timeouts for ESPN, but it was a really great duel. Tightly contested matches, which we're going to get into, but it was a really awesome experience for anybody that was able to get in through the doors.
I second the bucket list thing. I've been blessed to be at both of those in both cities. Both those teams do a first-rate job. The commercial thing is real, but when you get on big ESPN on Sunday afternoon, that's the juice is worth the squeeze, and how many people get to see wrestling. Yeah, I mean, it was just overall an awesome experience. My mom and dad, who have rabbit ears, came over to watch. So for me, that was about as good as it gets. We'll just get into the matches and we'll start in order. Very interesting. They went with heavyweight first. Dresser mentioned that on Thanksgiving, Rocky Elam was at his house and was begging him to go last. So GT, you may know this better than Mark and I do. If the teams cannot agree on where to start, they flip a coin. Is that what happens? And then the winning team gets to decide? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Okay. So they flipped a coin, and Iowa State started at heavyweight. Mark, you and I had talked about off the air, like where the duel starts. Grant, you and I talked live at the national duel finals. Like Ohio State, I was teasing you, like after Ohio State won 25-33, I'm like, this duel is over. But, if they had started that duel with Caliendo, it feels different. So, Mark, your thoughts on Dresser picking heavyweight?
I mean, I don't think it made a big difference in this duel because the favorites in this meet, you were pretty good favorites, obviously, because we did confidence picks, and Bastida was my number one. We had talked about that because he's just a machine. And I think it could have been worse than the score was. It seems like true, we could have rode him for another 2 seconds and he would have got the bonus point. But on his feet, he is so talented. If he would have went after a few more shots, it would not have even been in question whether it was a major. So, yeah, I don't think that made a huge difference because, then the next match Iowa turned around and, really was a toss-up match, and that was a big win for Iowa. So I felt like both teams were kind of doing what they could do early on in the dual day.
I'm going to slightly disagree with you because if you look at the duel, Iowa State was never behind. And it was because they started at heavyweight. Like if they started at 25, Iowa's winning, then it's tied. At 41, Iowa State's winning, but then it's right back to 1 point. At 57, Iowa State gets ahead, and then they go ahead. Iowa goes ahead with Caliendo, goes ahead with, and then it's tied with Gaitan and back and forth. But I think, and then also just set the tempo, like Younger Bastida put it on Ben Kueter. Like, I mean, let's put it this way. I picked Younger to win nationals at the beginning of the year. If you're an optimist, you go, there it is. That's peak, that's as good as it gets. If you're a pessimist, you go, he still lacks some match awareness, right? Like, Grant, you were talking to us off air before we started and kind enough to say we were all good coaches. Like, you have to ride out into periods. You can't end the match with 58, 59 seconds of riding time, right? And it didn't matter in the duel, but it'll matter in a match. Like, if you're wrestling Ferrari and you don't pick down, you're losing the match 1-0. You get a takedown with 20 seconds left and it's 3-0 versus 3-1. It can be a big difference. But he's so good, man. And Dresser said that his goal was to hand fight hard for 2 minutes. And I love watching wrestling with my pops because that's exactly what he said. He's like, he is just hand fighting the heck out of Kueter. And he's just breaking his stance. And he's like, why doesn't he attack early? I think he's just trying to get him tired. I think he's trying to get him frustrated. And it felt like that's exactly what it was. And people that haven't watched wrestling or watched a lot of Little League wrestling where people just dive in and shoot, that's one of the primary differences at college, elite wrestling. Dresser called them professional folk style wrestlers now with what they're getting paid. And he's awfully good, man. Like him and Trumbull and him and Ferrari are going to be very interesting matches, boys, don't you think?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, once again, I think arguably probably one of the greatest heavyweight brackets we've seen in 20 years was last year with Wyatt and Gable and
Kirk
Trumbull and Kirk Fleet and
Treffin,
Schultz.
Yeah.
And, Younger would have been in that bracket had he not been, basically injury redshirting last year, right? So
right.
You can talk about, and Galaldi could have been in there as well, and then he redshirted. So, like, we're talking about a freaking, and once again, I'd have to consult the wrestling information gods like Earl and JB. And
how fun was it to sit next to Earl, by the way?
Yeah, so I mean, like, I would put it out there as that, like, probably one of the best heavyweight brackets we've seen in a long time. And all those guys would have been in it. Ben Kueter was in it, Younger would have been in it. But I think if you watch Kevin Dresser's post match press conference, he talked about that. And then I think he talked about it on the interview he had with Flo yesterday on FRL, was that, like, there was some rumors that were going around that Kueter was not necessarily fully healthy. And they're like, well, we're going to test and see if he's fully healthy right out the gate, and force them, meaning Iowa, not us and them, but like forcing them as an Iowa State coach in Dresser's position to force Iowa to make a decision immediately on whether or not they were going to wrestle Ben or not. 100%. So crazy scenario. Once again, the draw, I mean, I think does affect a little bit of the match thing, but to Mark's point, like, a lot of those things were already kind of predetermined going in. Like, every match, I think everybody was ranked in the top 16 against each other, right? Yeah. So it's like, pick your poison on where you really want to start. They know that, like, Iowa has Murderer's Row there with 65, 74, 84, like how they won in the national dual finals.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of the strength of their lineup is those three athletes. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, and people forget, and people improve and don't improve, but Younger Bastida kind of owned Wyatt Hendrickson a couple of years ago. Like when Hendrickson was at Air Force. Now, again, Hendrickson got a lot better, but I'm just saying, Younger Bastida is super legit. I think people, he lost the Lucas Davidson match and then really didn't wrestle very hard in the back and had like a hand or finger injury. And so you just go, oh, he's a round of 12 guy. Like, I mean, Mark, he cost us our fantasy bracket that year. Like if he makes the finals, we win $1,000. So, you know, I mean, I'm going to ride that Bastida train. Okay. So 125, I guess for the 7 people watching this that don't know what happened, Peterson won. And at that point, you're like, okay, here comes the Iowa Magic, right? Like they win the toss-ups. They win the close matches. It was 7 versus 9, so it wasn't really – and he was ranked higher. But to be fair, Steve-O had placed the year before, and Steve-O had beaten him to place the year before. So it's kind of like, okay, Iowa's back on the horse. They dodged the major at heavyweight. Now they get the win at 25. And that scramble, Poulin had it. He just didn't hip heist. He just didn't get his hips where they needed to be, and he wins the scramble. But Dean Peterson's really started to impress me with how clutch he is late in matches, Mark. Like, he did it with Spratley, losing to win. And this one was going to go to overtime. But he also was more aggressive in that match. He took way more shots than Poulin did, and he took more ground than Poulin did. And somebody was saying, like, you need to put a pedometer on guys on whose feet are going backwards and forward. I don't know if that helps, but he went forward way more, Marks. I mean, I don't know who you're rooting for this year, but traditionally you've been an Iowa guy. Like, you have to be somewhat optimistic about Peterson, right?
Yeah, I just thought he was more battle-tested this year because I picked him in this duel. And that makes a difference. And also, he's been wrestling in a bigger stage so far this year, you know, wrestling at the national duels, wrestling his first home meets at Carver, which is a crazy place to wrestle if you're, you know, first time ever walking out in that tunnel and seeing those 14,000 fans. So I think that had a little bit to do with it. I think Poulin is a stud. I think he'll be an All-American. I just think he got out wrestled in 2 positions, and that's all it was.
And that's what a lot of these matches are when you're really even, right? Like, it's people go, you're 1 scramble away. Like, well, yeah, but if you always lose by 1 scramble, that means you're just always going to be in that line of the losers, like the round of 12, round of 16. And there's guys that have won a lot of matches that have won. Like Joe Williams used to win a ton of 1 takedown matches, Lee Kemp, those kind of guys, but they just won them all. Jaden Cox won a lot of really close matches, and not close like 9-8 matches, like 2-1, 3-2 matches. But those guys figure out a way. I think Poulin will be fine. GT 133, I imagine your brother was losing his freaking mind during this match.
Oh, yeah.
Frost having spent a year at Dowling with BT on staff. Do I have that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so interesting match, right? Like Mark has pointed out that those guys are both at Seabolt. Shout out TJ Seabolt. Drake was always kind of the big brother. I called Mark about this, Grant, and and Mark, if I get the quote wrong again, I apologize in advance. You said, I believe, Drake Ayala is super elite at head hands defense, but if you get to his leg, at that point, his defense is average. Is that a fair way of saying it, Mark?
Yeah, something that he needs to. And I talk, you know, and I'm not close with Drake, but he's from Fort Dodge, and I used to go up in the wrestling room. And I don't think I ever told Drake this because he was already a 2-time state champ, but I told his coaching staff, he's got to get stronger. The legs got to get stronger, because when you do get in on his legs, he has troubles. And he's starting to scramble better, but against really good kids, he hasn't mastered it yet. And that's something you know, if you don't have real strong hips and can't square up on guys when they get in, and you just try to go to scramble things, you're going to lose a lot of those. And that's exactly what happened Sunday. He lost a couple of those positions because he was giving up his legs. And he normally doesn't give them up that often. But, I mean, this is a recipe. If you're a coach and you're coaching really good athletes to wrestle him, attack his legs. Get to his legs. Don't let him adjust. Put the pressure on him.
Don't touch his head and attack his legs. Half of that's relatively simple. Getting to elite guys' legs is maybe a little more difficult than it sounds. So, but GT, So you're still coaching actively. Sure, you have guys that are cutting a significant amount of weight. I'm sure you're coaching some other guys that think they're cutting a significant amount of weight. And but Frost is clearly a big 33 pounder, right? I don't know how much him being the third match instead of the second match gives him that much more of a break. I mean, it's probably 12 minutes. But, Dresser addressed the fact that, like, hey, we didn't know for sure how he was going to handle it his first time down. But I think we've all coached and we all wrestled, like, the first time down is usually the hardest. So if he can continue to manage his weight, I mean, he's done himself a lot of good in seating here, and we'll talk about CKLV, but at this moment, he would have a very good seat at the Nationals because he's beaten Ayala. He looked, when we watched him wrestle last year, Grant, at Carver, he looked like he was just trying to keep it close and hope Drake made a mistake. This year, it looked like he went and got it. Is that kind of how you saw the match?
Well, I think, once again, we all have seen kind of Ayala be, kind of probably one of the better guys in all of collegiate wrestling over the past 3 years. I mean, he's a 2-time finalist.
Right.
This is a breakthrough match for Evan. One, because of like the training in high school and once again, both in-state kids wrestling each other. And I say in-state because they wrestled high school here or whatnot. But I think one of the things with Evan is that if you've known the Frost boys, they work really hard. Like they put in a lot of extra mileage. They do a lot of things to keep that weight down. And that for sure, Evan is a monster. They're twins and one of them's going 49. So to think of those boys as that, like they're always been like kind of a weight class apart, but we also have an athlete in between, Echemendia, who looked extremely good, which we're going to get to here in a second.
Right.
But like, I think Evan could be legitimately a 41 pounder because Jacob's a solid 49, right? So Jacob was an All-American last year at 141. Evan was not an All-American at 33. We fast forward to this year. In the match, I think, as Mark alluded to, like Drake has elite level defense, head and hands, trying to keep everything out in front of him. I think a little bit, and once again, we can't basically destroy Drake on just one match. Once again, this match is just one match of many. But if you look at Davino's match against Drake, same thing. Got to his legs quite a bit, and Drake didn't really have an answer once he got there, right? So I think we all we're not just looking at this through a telescopic lens. It's just one match and saying like, oh, his shot defense is crap. It's like, he struggled with Davino this year. He struggled with Bird. So I think it was just a really breakout match for Evan, more so than it is a Drake loss. I think Evan wrestled a little bit more aggressive and got to the legs a lot more than what we maybe have seen in the past. And just, kudos for Evan for like going and getting the win, right? So it very tight contested match, but both those guys are studs, and I both think that both of those guys are going to be on the podium at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think we have way more data on Iowa at December 1st or 2nd than we've ever had before because of the national duels and because of this duel. I said to Mark off air, it's very interesting, but if Drake loses to Ronnie Ramirez, he's 3-4. And he's 4-3. I think we give him the benefit of the doubt, and he more than earned it, 2-time finalist. But maybe taking like a couple days off and just kind of getting his mind right, getting his body right, might not hurt him. I think it's more of a big bump for Frost mentally, like you guys were talking about. Like, hey, I can win a match at this level. I will say this now. It will not surprise me if Iowa State wrestles a little bit poorly this weekend in Vegas. This last weekend was such an emotional high. It's hard to then peak again 7 days later, travel across the country and everything else. Okay, so 41. Echemendia is one of my favorite guys to watch. So good. He wrestled great. I can't figure out what's the deal with Nasir Bailey. Like, I don't know if he's really a 33-pounder and just doesn't belong at 41. I can't figure out if he just doesn't like wrestling right now. But if you look at who he won matches against, to me an All-American at 33 2 years ago, those guys have passed him now. Like and I don't know. I think they got two guys at the wrong weight. I think Jordan Williams is really a 49. I think Bailey's really a 33. You know, I don't know. I feel like those three weights with 41, 49, 57, they may not place in any of them now. I don't know what you guys want to add to this. I mean, I thought Echemendia went really hard, tried to get – he did that thing where you spin out front and the guy doesn't get up. He tried to do that twice in 9 seconds to get the tag. But I'll tell you what, okay, I think like Nasir picked top, which I'm like, okay, if you're losing, you might as well. Like, that's what I told Turner Ross's dad when he was wrestling Mills. I'm like, y'all should have picked top. You're getting killed on your feet and you can't get away. Pick top. And they did sort of that old Bo Nickel stand up where you stand up and you just don't hand fight and it's very hard to lift you. And Nasir just kind of gave up. He tried to return him once or twice and then just gave up. I think Bastida did the same thing at heavyweight. So they were coached really well. I don't know, Mark, what would you add to this at 41?
Yeah, I think that he looks like he's strong, and I know he has good grip, but Echemendia was controlling the hand fighting, and he was staying on a wrist. That's one thing Iowa State spent time doing. They were controlling one wrist to prevent Iowa from doing what they do, because you can't really score a takedown with one arm. It's really hard to do, and they just outthought Iowa. Iowa's always been kind of known for, we don't care what you do, we're going to do what we do, and we're just going to be better at it than you are. Well, there are teams that find ways to do it. Like, for example, last year at Nationals, Bouzakis and Drake, I thought Bouzakis was going to be a really bad matchup for Drake. But that was the first time I saw Iowa get to a point where they wrestled to beat that kid. And everything he did when he scored, he let go right away. Didn't try to ride him and all, because that's where Bouzakis was putting people on his back. It was like a strategy. And he ended up beating him by, I think it was a major, almost a tech. So, but Iowa State does that. I mean, they're being coached. Let's take away what they're good at. If he can't shoot with one arm, let's control that arm until we get to where we want to be. And then once he started hitting his shots, and he wasn't even penetrating, he was just going into that leg and then locking the body up. And it was unbelievable talent. That he is so good.
He's a level change explosion guy. And I think we kind of slept on him because Jesse Mendez beat him so badly or so dominantly at the All-Star meet, but he can make the finals. I mean, he's got to be on the bottom side of the bracket.
Yep.
Him and Sergio Vega are going to be fascinating because he's not going to dive underneath Sergio Vega and get in all those body cradle scrambles. And I guarantee you at 26 years old, he's way stronger than Sergio Vega at 18 or 19.
Yep.
Like he's got literally grown man strength. Okay, so the other thing is this that kind of hits me when you think about the overall thing of things. Like, Grant, you were sitting next to me or I was sitting next to you at the finals of the national duels. Iowa had one takedown in regulation that whole duel. You know, they got 3 in overtime, 65, 74, 84. And here I think they only had 2 or 3 takedowns besides Caliendo. You know, they got a takedown with Peterson. They got one with Ayala and one with Kennedy. So maybe 3. I mean, the rest of the guys didn't get a takedown. So at 49, here's one of the matches, no takedown. I mean, really nothing happened. Ryder block's better on the ground or on the mat. It's super interesting. Like, do you defer? I mean, like, the argument for deferring is if you can ride the guy out, then you can pick neutral and nobody scores and you win on the riding time. The second argument for deferring is, and it's a twisted one, but like if I ride Grant for 9 seconds, I know I have to get out in 8 or pick neutral. But the argument for not, but for going down first is you just get out as quick as you can. But I just don't think Paniro is ever going to be Ryder block when it comes down to 30-second rideouts. And he's like, GT, you were talking to us off air. He's so talented. He's got to pull the trigger. And I'm sure that's one of the frustrating things. And that's like, he might be more explosive than Frost, but the Frost guys, they do what they know. They go try and get it. And if they do it wrong, you can at least coach that versus nobody taking a real attack. Paniro got to the body once. And people have to understand, if a guy's a head and a half taller than you, you can't try to pick him up. Just pick him off his feet. He's still on his toes. And then Ryder block change it to double overs. And then immediately you don't have the position anymore. So your thoughts on 49?
Well, I think it's very tactical match. I mean, once again, Ryder blocks is a head and a half taller than Paniro, right? So there was a lot of Paniro tried a couple of different blast doubles, got down blocked. Ryder tried to chase him around quite a bit, and Paniro kind of one knee scooted away from him a whole bunch, to turn and face, not necessarily whatever. But, I think the biggest thing when you look at, once again, I'm going to give some flowers to Ryder. A lot of people kind of wrote off Ryder block, from injuries and whatnot. And if you guys remember back, he was a highly sought after recruit out of Iowa. He was, I want to say either a number 1 or number 2 ranked guy at his weight, nationally. I think that
Williams would wrestle in the finals of Fargo every year. Yeah.
So I think that he's at the right weight. I think he was cutting way too much for 41 a year ago. I think, with the injuries, I think 49 is a great weight class for him. And I think that, he is a top 8 talent in this division. So, once again, as we alluded to at the very beginning of the pod, all of these matches are round of 12 All-American placing matches in theory, the way that the rankings are right now. And once again, we're still December 1st and we're moving through the season, but these are all great matches. So I think Paniro's shot that he did take that got into the body, he probably finishes that 7 out of 10 times on basically anybody else, and kind of got him in a position to win the match and just didn't finish. That's fine. But to the overtime, tactical advantage, or we could nerd out on that on an entire podcast on wrestling tactics, but I just don't know if there's a good scenario of choosing down or versus choosing top. And once again, we can discuss that at a later date, but there's a lot of, if you get out, you can ride, you know what you're up against. But if you do have the other guy go down and you can only ride him for 3 seconds, going into the last 30, you're going to have to basically pick neutral, right? So, but once again, tightly contested match, and basically a 1 takedown score. That was about it. So
these guys got to remember they can drop to a leg too. If you haven't got called for stalling, drop to a leg, and when they count 5, it's usually not 5. It's usually 6 or 7 seconds. They count a little slower. And it's the referee's count. He doesn't have to be exactly in sync with the clock, but nobody's counting faster than a second.
But if I'm not mistaken, I think Ryder got out in
8
seconds, 9 seconds, right in that area. And Paniro turned to his coaching staff and they told him, go neutral. You probably are basically getting out. So,
well, that's because Ryder block would drop to an ankle. And, if he drops to an ankle twice and then Paniro gets away, he still wins the match.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. If you go double spikes, when you're that tall, if Grant double spikes me, I'm not getting out in 8 seconds.
Yeah.
I'll tell you if you need to get out quick, the best way to get out quick is that Johnny Hendricks, Jason Surt's short sit-out series, because you can't grab anything. You're out so fast. The other thing is this, and it's fine, Mark, you can disagree in a second. 149 is an absolute wasteland to rank because Paniro was the softest number 2 ranked guy. He never placed at nationals. Larkin's ranked number 2 now. I'm super high on him. He doesn't have a big body of work yet. What he's done has been super impressive. GT and I were sitting 12 feet from the match where he decimated Lachlan McNeil, but he's a freshman. We don't know. He's Rabadou. He's Vega. He's Ladarian Lockett, minus the red shirt. So Mark, if you want to tell me why I'm wrong about the short sit.
No, it's different. Some guys can do it. You know, for example, Kennedy got right to that short sit out and then got sucked back 3 times in the overtime.
Well, you got to finish it correctly.
I understand that, but it's not just this. I think the sit out's a perfect way to do it, but it's something you have to spend lots of time doing and perfecting.
Agreed. But I'm saying if you have to get out in 5 seconds and I was good at one move, that would be the move. And there's no, you can't be right or wrong. It's just, we're just talking. But I mean, it's the hardest thing I think for the top guy to get a handle on. That's my point.
Yeah.
Okay. 57, Jordan Williams, Vinnie Zerban. By the way, Border Brawl guys went 3-0 in this meet. Just saying. Proud of those guys. Vinnie looked great, man. And he hit that Uchimata body lock to take Jordan to his back when Jordan picked down. And we've talked about this a million times. If you get scored on first in the period you pick, it's usually hard to win the match, especially to give up 3 like that. And then Jordan just stopped wrestling on the edge of the mat to give up the major. And I think that's kind of the part, like if you go, okay, Bastida was a favorite. He won. Iowa won the toss-up. Massive upset for Iowa State at 33. 41, the favorite won. 49, it was an upset. On rankings, it's a big upset. Number 12, 14, whatever, beat 2. So now Iowa's back in the duel. Now we have this toss-up match. Jordan Williams and Zerban. A lot of people were not high on Zerban. He hadn't wrestled anybody this year. Was a surprise All-American last year. You know, like he looks like sometimes like he just rolled out of bed, you know, in terms of his grooming, you know. And so I think that kind of lulls people to sleep. And I said this to my dad. I got a chance to coach Vinnie for a pretty long time. You guys have all coached people this way. You don't teach that kid's moves. You teach him situations and go, how would you solve this? He is super creative. His mind works a little bit differently. Like he's hitting standing Merkles. He just doesn't wrestle normal, but he's really good. And he was a 113-pounder, that tall as a freshman, cut a ton of weight to help the team that year. Lost to, I think, Arini, who ended up being like a 3-time All-American in the state finals. He's full grown. Now, I would say this, at 157, I think the 2 best guys in the country aren't ranked yet in Meyer Shapiro and PJ Duke. I mean, PJ's ranked, but like 20-something. But I feel like Vinny's going to be on the podium again. I'm not sure about Jordan. GT, what do you think about, like, what do you think is going on with maybe Jordan and Nasir? Because they came over together, and it just seems like if they're not winning, they tend to lose interest in matches.
I mean, once again, we're looking at a very, very small sample size so far. I mean,
right?
Like,
that's fair.
Jordan Williams, we haven't really seen a ton. We've seen more of Nasir than we've seen of Jordan. And I think once again, it's very hard to, cast stones at the Iowa program and like, just, I mean, they're still a top 5 team, even with like, some of the losses that they've had right now. I mean, they were just in the national dual finals. They got probably legitimately a couple of guys that could be national champions this year in Caliendo and Ferrari. We all think that PK is going to be on the stand. We got, I think we all think Ayala will be on the stand. We all think that Dean Peterson can be on the stand. We all think that, Ben Kueter could be on the stand. We all think Mo is an unknown, but we all think that he can be on the stand. So I think for Jordan, I haven't seen enough from him early in the season to really give a full diagnostic breakdown of what I think. But I think in the match that he wrestled against Vinnie, he lost focus a couple of times. He gave up that takedown on the right on the edge, out of bounds, and just kind of gave up that position. I mean, outside of the big bomb, basically almost got his head blown off. Like, yeah. I mean, it was a really tightly contested match. Like that Merkel position could have been a takedown easily. I think Jordan Williams is still scary good. And like he can still wrestle and beat just about anybody when he decides that he's on. So I mean, I still think that there's a lot to Jordan. I think you also, once again, these guys are at different weight classes than what we've seen them, right? So there might be something there. comparative to a 49 and 33 where Nasir was at and where Jordan was at previously. And once again, if you haven't watched Vinnie Zerban much, from his Northern Colorado days, yes, he kind of has this like really weird look to him, like physically. But like, if you watch his technique, like he's very creative, he's very instinctual, he has very good flow, and like he's not afraid to like go mix it up either. Like he got into some positions. He's like, no, I'm gonna get this.
He's a dog.
So he reminds me a lot of like kind of like a Ty Waters, like kind of like he's got a lot of like.
Does he remind you at all of Brinzer?
I haven't watched a lot of Brinzer's folk style. I watched a lot of Brinzer freestyle, but yeah, he's got this kind of weird mentality to him. And once again, he never really rushed any positions, but I think it's a crazy great matchup for this duel in particular, because it was both those guys were wrestling to win. I think Jordan Williams just lost focus in a few positions, and that basically cost him that match.
Yeah, the body lock and the takedown. Yeah. Mark, it feels like maybe 33 is a little bit, or 57 is a little bit like 33, right? Where it's not so much stock down on Iowa, it's just stock up on Iowa State. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think Iowa State, I haven't seen enough of Zerban. I know a few years ago, he was the number 1 or 2 seed at the Big 12s, and you were talking him up, and he ended up not even placing in the top 6. He had to get a wild card to even go to national. So I really haven't seen enough of him, but he's a creative wrestler. I enjoy watching him. He does some things that you don't expect. Yeah,
he's really fun. Yeah, he does some really cool stuff. And you can imagine how fun he was in high school when he could kind of do what he wanted. Like he wasn't just hitting a lot of straight, swing singles, running around guys. Like he had some really creative takedowns.
But as a coach, when you get guys that are giving up toward the end of a match and just quitting, and you saw that at 141, you saw that at 157 for Iowa this weekend, I'm not sure Tom and Terry Brands are the kind of coaches that are going to say, "Oh, it's just a bad day. Don't worry about it. We'll get them." They don't like guys that quit. And I remember having a young man on my team, and this was a long time ago, and I really liked the kid. He was out of New Mexico. He had won the high school nationals at 103 pounds. He was going to be a 125-pounder for us. He wrestled Division II, got kicked out of school, didn't do well. Anyway, we brought him in, and he was just a really good athlete, small 25-pounder. And we wrestled against Terry Pack's team at the Ellsworth Duels in the championship, and he wrestled a good kid from Illinois, but we're up 6-2 on him, or 4-2 on him after 2 takedowns in the first period, and our guy just gassed. He just fell off a cliff and actually quit wrestling and got beat by a major decision. And he goes out in the bus, and he's back there, and the first thing I said is, you need to find a new sport because you're not very good at this one. He went home and packed his bags and right back to New Mexico. So it was kind of a rough awakening, but, we have meetings, and I'm sure you guys have had meetings in your room. I don't care if kids lose. I don't care how you win, but you don't ever quit wrestling. And we're going to have you in good enough shape. You should never have to get tired. And he just quit and didn't care. And you can't coach that. Once they've got that, it's hard to get rid of because you can't get it in their head.
PT, Mark basically did everything but name this kid and give out his social security number. It's from 27 ways.
I guarantee Grant doesn't know who the kid is.
See, once again, we must protect the lives of the innocent. I mean, once again, who wants to be named as the one guy that didn't try hard in the national finals, right? Like, let's leave that completely off the grid.
There wasn't the national finals. It was just a tournament.
I know. Right, I'm just making fun.
Cale Peterson's an option at 41. Miguel Estrada is an option at 57. Victor Voinovich is an option at 57. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would have said earlier, maybe Estrada goes 49 and Block goes 57, but Black's wrestling pretty good. I mean, he almost beat Ethan Styles. So, I saw a ranking where, and we won't get into the rankings today, but where they had Black above Styles, and that can't be this early in the year. I mean, head-to-head has to matter a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll try to keep it moving. 65, I don't think there's a lot to talk about. I think that, I'll say what I say, and if you guys want to add anything, Caliendo was relentless. I think Connor Uten still, I don't know if he was hurt at the beginning of the match, but he's hurt at the end of the match. He's a guy that GT pointed out very early was going to be good, and I think he's going to be very good, but part of being good is staying healthy. I think there's a fairly good chance we see Aiden Riggins this weekend. I'm not sure that's a long-term shift for Iowa State, but, it's tough coming off getting thumped like that and being unhealthy and then going to CKLV is a grinder. Yeah, it's a big meet. Anything you guys want to add there, or we'll jump to 74, which is probably the most psychotically awesome match I've seen this year. So
I think one of the things just to touch on is that, like, if you guys had forgot how great Caliendo is, watch that match.
Yeah.
Relentless. He looked crisp, clean, looked like the number 2 ranked guy in the nation, like bona fide national title contender. Like, he looked really good. So once again, I think if you guys had slept on him, like after maybe a couple of bad matches or whatnot, or close matches against other guys, like Caliendo is that guy. He's really good. And he definitely proved it in that duel. He looked different level, man. He looked great.
And we might see him and Lockett 2 more times, most likely the duel, and then maybe again in the NCAA semis or something like that. I mean, the way the seeds are, or the rankings are now, if those are the seeds, that would be that way. Okay, 74. So I've kind of thought about what I was going to say about this. I will say this and then get out of the way. MJ Gaitan is the kind of kid, like, especially as a junior college coach, Mark, you want. Like, he'll probably take 7th, but he'll pin 4 guys doing it. Right. And you just know, like, he's going to get in a match in the round of 16 or quarters and throw himself to his back. But then he's going to pin 3 guys, and then he's going to lose in a match he could have won. And then he's going to pin the guy for 7th. So he's going to score like 13, 14 points for your team. And if you have 10 of those guys, as not fun as that is, you'd be sitting in the stands with the team trophy. It feels like this year he has controlled. I'll just say this match, that he controlled it. That he didn't go for broke. He didn't take himself out of the match. He threatened positions that he's better in that position than Kennedy is in the opposite side of that position. And he used his defense. And I will say this, I don't know if there was a clasp. It looked like there was a clasp. I heard the guys on Flow say it wasn't, but it was a brilliant challenge. Okay, it was a brilliant challenge because it took about 3 or 4 minutes. Kennedy was really tired. I think Gaitan was more tired. And when you throw a brick, if you say, I had a positive impact on the outcome of that match, that's all you can ask for in a brick, especially if you lose it. So, Mark, I'll let you go first here, 74.
Yeah, I was watching it on TV. His hands did touch on his stomach.
That's what I saw.
It was like 6 or 7 seconds into the overtime, the 30-second ride time. And the challenge it after, I'm not even sure you can do that because it's supposed to be you challenge it when you think it happened. You throw the brick out there.
That's why they lost the brick.
Yeah, but they shouldn't have even went and looked at it because they waited so long to challenge. And maybe that's how they found out it was, wait a minute, that touching of the hands happened 6 seconds into the ride out of the 30-second ride out, and you didn't throw it till the end. They didn't know, so they probably did their due diligence and went and looked, and then they said, but you waited too long. You didn't throw it when it happened.
But let's just say, I'll get this and you can talk about the actual match. It's tough when it's on the other side. How fast is too fast? We had this whole thing with Zane Rutherford and Yanni years ago. How long can you throw the brick? Somebody actually talked about having an earbud, and the head coach is like, throw the brick. Somebody's watching video, different angles. Just tell me about your impressions of the match. I didn't mean to take us down brick alley.
I thought it was a great match. It was one of the better college wrestling matches I've seen in a while. But Gaitan, I mean, that was a beautiful headlock early on from his knees. And Kennedy was able to roll through it, which just surprised the living daylights. I mean, I thought he was going to give up, 6.7 points right there, but he rolled through it and didn't get the takedown, which kind of surprised me when he rolled through it, because usually when you lock up around the waist and guy throws a headlock and you roll through it, that guy's going to be on his, side and you're going to end up scoring, but he didn't. So, Gaitan, he just wrestles really well. You cannot get in certain positions. You go in for a shot, you better finish it right away or you're going to have problems. And that's what he was able to do.
He had it. And GT, I don't think you got to hear the interview because you were in the arena, but he literally talked about a guy in Casey's telling him he wasn't going to win the match. I'm sure you caught it later, but just like such an epic, if you're not from the Midwest or Iowa, you don't know what Casey's is, but it's like, I think I posted a year ago or 2 years ago, GT, when I was coming up to see you, like Casey's is the only place where you can stop for gas and be wearing like a USA Wrestling hoodie, and the person you pay the gas for, buy your soda from, can give you a better breakdown of the duel than 90% of the people you know. So anyway, your thoughts on this match?
Oh my goodness. So like my uncle that lives out in Hawaii, he sent me the interview, on social media, like after the duel and whatnot. And, we were actually I was actually kind of making sure that I kind of caught up on social media after the duel, like kind of some of the flow reactions and other people's reactions to it. And we saw that interview was happening. And my uncle basically said it's the second best interview that he's ever seen on a post-duel thing, other than the Sammy Brooks's mullet with Shane Sparks's interview.
Yeah.
But like, if you actually listen to that thing, he was just like walking through, like a Casey's General Store, which is our whatever Sheets or Wawa for the people that are out in Pennsylvania,
in Missouri.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So,
yeah.
And like, basically some guy was like, "Hey man, who you wrestling in the duel?" And he's like, "Oh, I got Kennedy." And the guy goes, "Ouch." I'm like, "Oh, all right." So now I want, and I'll be the first one to say this. I need somebody from the Casey's marketing team needs to step up and give a NIL deal to MJ, powered and fueled by Casey's for the entire season.
Yes.
It needs to happen. Just make it happen for MJ. We need some NIL contributions for that kid because he put you on the map on ESPN.
Yeah. Yeah, it was big. So he's really good when you shoot. He's usually hits that high flyer, but he did that trapped arm roll through, sort of an off version of a Winn-Dixie. My dad showed me that years ago. Guys that are good at that are usually, which I was both, lazy at sprawling and not very strong physically, because guys get to your legs. And so, I mean, that was a massive turning point in the match, right? Like, that's the point, I think, where you go, oh, okay, well, now Rocky can win the duel instead of it, like win the duel outright instead of going to criteria. So I don't know there's much to talk about at 84. I mean, Ferrari won. It's like the second or third match he's won this year without getting a takedown. He deserved the stall call, in my opinion. I think he took way more shots than Dean did. Dean's defense is stupid, man. Like, he was dead to rights on 3 or 4 of those things. He's really good bumping hips. He's really good. My dad teaches this. I'm sure GT, you teach this, Mark. I'm sure you did. Where you take the guy's head to the other side of the shot. So, like, if you're a right leg lead and you swing to a single, you move his head outside. So now it's a high crotch, and most guys are like, I don't want to be on this side, and they kind of just get out of it, or it takes them a second or two to react to their second best finish. He's going to be a problem at nationals. Like, I mean, like, if it's him and Zach Ryder in like the 5-12 or 6-11 match, that's not in round 2. That's not a draw you're super excited about, right, Mark?
No, and I don't think I'm the only one, but I'm a big AJ fan. I think he's, I like the way he wrestles when he wrestles. And he did make some attempts. He did get the leg up a few times. I give him all the kudos there. Boy, you can't have overtime match after overtime match after 1-point match all the way through the national tournament and win a national tournament. It's probably not going to happen. Something's going to break down. You've got to be able to score points on guys. And I'm not seeing it right now in him, and that's what really concerns me, is he's not spreading any gap whatsoever, making these kids not want to wrestle him. And that's kind of always been the Iowa way of doing things. Is you beat a guy so bad he doesn't ever want to step on the mat with you again. We're winning rideouts, and we're not giving up things, and we're in position to lose. And
there
he
is
easily lost to Missouri.
There is GT. We're back to we.
I'm
Marcus.
sorry.
Marcus.
Hey.
No, Mark is back. Big Tone. Mark is back.
Hey, we start dropping some first names. We know that we've completed the
Am
cycle.
I wrong? Am I wrong?
No, he's
Not
had
at all.
overtime.
Not at all.
He had overtime with Sinclair. He had overtime with, I think, Ryder. Overtime with Fishback. Okay, so this is his fourth. Well, this wasn't an overtime match, but between one score and overtime matches, he had 4 already. Now, I would say this is the best schedule Iowa's ever wrestled up to December 1. I mean, I think, maybe we call Earl or JB like GT saying, but I think that's probably true, at least for the last 25 years, just because of the duels they got at national duels. But you're right. It's live and die by the sword. He's good at riding. I mean, he's like a rich man version of Ryder Block, right? Like if you get to the rideouts, he's got a very good chance and he's got more offense. But people are starting to figure out, the 2 shots he has. And I don't know. It's interesting. I kind of just want to get the 97. Well, I'm saying
My
okay.
bad.
No. I'm just saying he's still in the hunt to win it.
Well,
right?
without a doubt.
He's in that top tier. Those 4 guys, I think, on any given day can win that bracket. Just because Sinclair beat McAnally doesn't mean that's going to happen the same way again. I mean, I'll tell you this right now. Oklahoma State duels Nebraska in a couple weeks. And if anybody wants to give me the point spread that there was at national duels and give me Nebraska with those points, I'll take them in a minute. Like that, things happen. Things tighten up. Okay, 97 last match. Rocky against Endine. I think Endine's really good. I just think Rocky's healthy. And I probably watch Rocky wrestle more than anybody because he's a Missouri kid and he went to Mizzou and he was in our event. I'm friends with his dad, friends with his older brother. It's very cool, Mark, just to see him healthy. And I also think GT, he said to Dresser, I want to go last. You want somebody who's first year in, give me the smoke. I want the smoke. I don't even care what the scenario is. And you and me were texting, what's the criteria? I'm like, he can lose and they win because it's match points. They changed it again. And, if it's 17-17, he wins. It ended up 20-14. I'm sure Iowa State would have loved to have the bonus at 97 in heavyweight and the tech at 41 and make it 23-14. But they win. They win 6 matches to 4. What are your thoughts on Rocky?
Well, one, I think it's great for basically all kind of wrestling fans, that Rocky Elam looks healthy, that he's back in the swing of things when it comes to collegiate wrestling. To come out and wrestle somebody that's very dangerous in Mo, who's knocked off a lot of people this year already. And just looking at the intermat rankings already, Mo's ranked all the way up to 4th in the nation. So you're looking at basically 2 versus 4 at this point.
That's right.
So I think the biggest thing that I think was really kind of on display was Mo got in on a deep shot late in the third or early in the third period. And Rocky just calm and cool, basically broke the lock and just basically went about his business. It was a close match up until that point in time. I think he looked good. And I think, once again, when you have a 5th/6th year/12 year senior that's been in tough matches, been on world teams, what a guy to be a bookend on that duel where you have the number 1 ranked guy in the nation at heavyweight leading you out, and you have a, whatever it is, 5-time All-American already, potential candidate, closing out the duel, right? No moment's too big for that young man. Once again, first time ever wrestling in the CyHawk series. Big match, big crowd. I think it's really cool to see. And once again, same thing for Mo. First time Mo ever wrestled in CyHawk series. And
he kept coming. He didn't quit. He just got beat. Rocky was just better on Sunday. Not saying he's a better wrestler forever. And to Mark's point, you can coach that. right? Like if you can coach, if you can't coach lack of effort, you can coach effort. You can like, hey, here's where you got to adjust. Here's what's not going to work on a really tall guy. You got to create a different angle. But listen, man, you were still digging deep. You're still trying to win the match and the duel for us. And like, pat him on the butt, stay positive with him. So this has been about an hour. I'll just say this. We'll probably address it later this week. Maybe Mark and I can jump on and do CKLV preview. South Dakota State beat Minnesota, which I feel bad that it happened the same week this happened because that duel was insane. We'll probably go back through and look at the results. But the end of that duel, if you haven't seen it, is worth like just put on the last 60 seconds of heavyweight. It was awesome. So I don't think we have anything left to cover today. Mark, don't hang up when we're done. I'm going to see if we can, get on and do something else. But GT, again, I sincerely appreciate you helping me if I was going to come up. I'm bummed I didn't come up. My buddy Ethan Carl that didn't get to do the anthem because of the weather, but hopefully we'll make it up next year for Iowa City. Anything else before we sign off, boys?
If you're wrestling Iowa State, you ain't beating them at 97 heavyweight. I don't care who you are, period.
They're winning nationals?
Those two guys, to me, are the best two kids in the country at their weights.
One of the things we'll talk about later this week is a hypothetical Iowa State-Ohio State duel, which will actually happen in Nashville in a couple weeks. Because GT, I said this to you. I go, I think Iowa State could win this tournament when we were at National Duels. And Willie poo-pooed it. They would have been in the finals just based on what we've seen so far. So, okay. For Mark with his freshly new haircut, and GT with the best hair in the business, I'm David. Thank you guys for watching and listening. We'll see y'all next week.